Okay, hi everyone. All right. Hold on, let me just check my screen here. Okay, for some reason okay. Hi, Lori Palatnik here. We are doing our series on the Happier Home. And just to review some of the protocol. If you have a question, don't chat your question in. You should push the Q&A at the bottom of your screen, okay? Go to the Q&A, the bottom of your screen, and and our producer will collect the questions, and then I'll deal with them towards the end of the class. Hopefully that's clear, okay? Because if you put in the chat, then everybody sees who asked the question. So it's just a little bit more private and a little bit easier if you just send it to my producer at the Q&A at the bottom, okay? Q&A, got it? Great. Now, last week, just to review, last week we talked about we defined our terms. We talked about marriage is oneness. We talked about love. And one of the aspects of love is Rabbi Dessler asked in his book, Strive for Truth, does loving lead to giving, or does giving lead to loving? And the Jewish answer is, the more you give, the more you love. So we had an assignment, and we talked about doing one extra act of giving to our spouse in this past week. So we're going to bring up a poll, hopefully, and thank you very much. Everybody take the poll, all right? Okay, do we have the results? And the survey says, okay, so I did the homework every night, 14% of you did. You did it almost every night, 63%. You forgot to do it, 14%. It's okay. It was too hard for me to do in my marriage right now, 10%. That's cool. We're good to go. Okay, thank you very much. Now what you're going to do, now you are going to use your chat, all right? For those of you who actually did the assignment, whether you did it every night or you did it once in a while, I want you to please chat in now and let me know what was the results. Like how did your husband have any reaction? Did it affect you? Did it affect it, or do you have a little funny, cute story? Anything at all, okay? So I want you to chat in. Let's see how we do here. And as you're typing in, hopefully, I'm going to let you know that I also did it. And so some days I was like, oh, I forgot to do it. So my go-to was to make my husband popcorn. So I would make him popcorn and bring him a bowl wherever he was, whether he was outside or he was down in his office. And then one day I remember I was giving him like a shoulder rub, just out of the blue, which I normally don't do in the middle of the day, give him a shoulder rub. So every day I try to do one little extra thing. Okay, so let's see what everybody's saying. I feel much closer to my partner, and oh, that's great. Great, and it was much easier to focus on good points. Thank you, Jen. Dina said, no reaction. No reaction at all, Dina? Nothing, zero, nothing? Rosalind, it didn't seem to make any difference. Veronica, he always receives everything I give to him with much gratitude. Oh, that's sweet. Lori, my husband liked the things I did, but it didn't seem to help our relationship overall. Rob, I did a small extra giving to my husband every day, and he was very appreciative and seemed more interested in me. Okay, good. Shelley, no reaction. Now, I want to propose that perhaps, wait, let's see, hold on. Deb says, after the first time I did something, I told him I was doing it as my homework. He thought it was really sweet. Maybe I wasn't supposed to tell him. No, it's fine. Tanya, my husband loved what is important to you is important to me. He used it back at me at one point. Okay, good. Michelle left a note on the coffee pot. He was thankful. Tali, I brought him dessert to him, a super special, and then he didn't want to do it since he said he couldn't make it like mine. Okay. Okay, good, excellent. Okay, listen, don't give up, don't give up. Even those who you said there was no reaction, I'm wondering if you're planting seeds and it's going into his hard drive, okay? I would say you can't go wrong by keeping this up. You can't go wrong by being a giver. And I promise you, your kids are watching you. Your kids are watching you. So your children are watching you. And it's going into their hard drive too when they see this giving. All right, so let's get to today. Today is our 3 pillars, okay? Our 3 pillars. So our 3 pillars, we're gonna start. This is really comes out of my dating class, all right? So I have a dating workshop that I give, and in my dating workshop, one of the most popular parts of it is 3 questions you have to answer yes to in order to know it's the right person. The 3 questions you have to answer yes to in order to know it's the right person, because it's the most important decision of your life is who you're going to marry. So we're going to go through this because in a married audience, it's not the 3 questions, it's the 3 areas you must put a lot of time and effort into. And when we say 3, okay, it's like a tripod. So that means like you have to have all 3. And you have to have all 3. Otherwise, if you take one away, it falls down. So these are 3 important things. So, and for those of you who are looking to get married or advising people, like your kids, the most important decision they'll ever make in their life, these are the 3 questions you have to answer yes to. So we're going to not put them in question form because this is about marriage, but I will say them in question form, okay? So the first one is, do you have the same meaningful life goals? So meaningful life goals. So for those, for those who are dating, you can hopefully know this pretty quick when you start dating somebody if you share the same meaningful life goals. But I remember a woman came up to me in my dating workshop, a girl came up and she says like, I don't know if the guy I'm dating has the same meaningful life goals that I do because I don't know what my meaningful life goals are. It starts with you. So for us, for the people who are married. So again, if you answer no to one of these questions, do not say like, get off this workshop and say to your husband, like, I knew it all along and Lori just confirmed it. No. Again, these are the 3 areas we have to put a lot of time and effort into. So the mistake that we make sometimes is we make our children the most meaningful life goal that we share with our husband. My children are a very big part of our lives and a very meaningful part of our lives. But as we spoke about last week, if your children are the most meaningful goal that you share with your husband, and then they grow up and they leave you, because if you do a good job, your children leave you, then sometimes you get what's called the empty nest syndrome, where the husband and wife look at each other like, well, now they're gone. Who are you? And what have we built together? So your meaningful life goals, sharing, like marriage is is building on these meaningful life goals that you have together. So I had a woman who came to me once and she was so ever, she had issues in the marriage and it was like a common tale. And I talked to her about that marriage is the pursuit of mutual meaningful life goals. And I said, so what are the meaningful life goals that you and your husband share? Blank. I go, come on, like, like when you were dating, like, and you talked about like, what is it that you wanted to, to build together and to accomplish together? And she goes, oh, we both wanted to be rich. I said, well, that's not a goal. Money is a means to a goal. With wealth, you could do tremendous things with wealth. That you can, you can help people and help the community and amazing things that you could do with it, but that's not a goal, it's a means to a goal. She goes, oh yeah, we wanted to help the community, with the Jewish community. Yeah, the Jewish community. I said, okay, ding, 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 okay. So, it was in Toronto. I said, there's a seniors home here, a Jewish seniors home, it's called Baycrest. Why don't you can volunteer, maybe you can work with, the residents and maybe he wants to be on the board or vice versa. I said, that's not just a nice thing to do for the Jewish community. That's a great thing to do for your marriage. So they both wanted to be rich, and you know what? They became rich. And then he lost his wealth. And then their marriage fell apart. And then they got divorced. So when we talk about meaningful life goals and do we share the same, when someone's dating, it's not just do we want to have children, what values do we want to give our children? Not just what does our house look like, what does our house feel like? What do we want to give to our people, our community? My day-to-day goals are very different than my husband's, but our mutual meaningful life goals together, what we share together and what we build together, that's a big part of our marriage. Okay, so that's the first one. Okay, meaningful life goals. Number two, physical attraction. Yay. Okay, so the Torah teaches us that you can't marry somebody unless you're attracted to them. This is a very, 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 very important part of marriage, and not just for the first years when everything's hot and heavy, and then the kids come, and then this is actually supposed to be getting stronger in a marriage and not weaker. But men and women can sometimes look at this in a different way. I'm going to generalize right now. What does generalize mean? There are exceptions. But in general, for women, it's very much, in terms of physical attraction, it's very much inside out. And for men, it's much more outside in. I'll give you an example. So imagine you're single and you go to, a party with your girlfriend and you see a guy across the room and he's hot. Now, I have to say that hot is a very regional term. I speak all over the world. If I'm in England and if I'm in London, I'm speaking and I say, and he's hot, they turn up the air conditioning. In England, he's fit. In Costa Rica, he's guapo. In Brazil, he's a cat. Okay, so there is a very regional term, but for the sake of this, we'll say he's hot. So you see a guy across the room and he's hot. And your girlfriend sees you looking at him. She goes, he's hot, isn't he? I'm like, oh my gosh, he's so hot. She says, he's my cousin. Want to meet him? And you're like, oh my gosh, I totally want to meet him. So now you're going across the room with her and you're like, no, I can't do it. Oh, okay. No. Okay. So now you go across the room and your heart is beating out of your chest and you have no saliva in your mouth. And she introduces you to her cousin and she slips away. Now you're talking to the guy. A few minutes in, you realize porch lights on, nobody's home. Somebody said, body by Nautilus, brains by Fisher-Price. For a woman, in general, you're not even attracted to the guy anymore. The guy's an idiot. For a man, it's different. He sees her go across the room, she's hot, he goes to talk to her, there's nothing upstairs, he still wants to be with her. In marriage, how he treats us outside the bedroom is directly related to how we treat him inside the bedroom. And for men, it's the opposite. How we treat him inside the bedroom is directly related to how he treats us outside the bedroom. Do you hear the problem? Somebody has to make the first move here and don't wait for it to be him. If he's helpful and supportive and kind and loving outside the bedroom, then we want to be with him inside the bedroom. And he, in general, if everything's hot and heavy inside the bedroom, then he wants to be helpful and outside the bedroom. Yes, I will be speaking to your husbands about this in the 5th class. Okay, this is something I talked to them about. Also, romance changes as marriage goes on. Have you noticed that romance is a little bit, when my kids were little, so I'm not like the happy housekeeper type so much, but there's certain things I like things to be in basic order. And I actually don't like to go to sleep and leave a messy kitchen. I don't like to wake up to a messy kitchen. Okay, fine. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm one of those people I don't mind doing the laundry. I hate putting it away. I don't mind shopping for groceries. I hate putting them away. Are you like me? I don't mind loading a dishwasher. I hate unloading dishwashers. So rewind my life in Toronto, 5 little kids, okay? Go to sleep. My husband goes to sleep. I'm like, okay, messy kitchen. I don't want to wake up to a messy kitchen. So I'm going to load the dishwasher. And we didn't have a housekeeper. I realized that in order to load the dishwasher, I first have to unload the dishwasher, and I hate unloading dishwashers. So I open up the dishwasher and it's empty. Who, without being asked, clearly unloaded the dishwasher? My husband. At that moment, I got this wave of desire for my husband, and I'm thinking, what? An empty dishwasher? Yes. Yes. Years ago, I was actually in Minneapolis, and I was giving this talk. I gave a talk about marriage at night. It was called like date night, and like they had all these like couples around tables with a candle and wine. And I gave this example about how romance changes. And the next morning, I had a class just with the women, just with the wives, about something else. And more than one wife told me that the night before, after the talk, and they came home, their husband ran to the dishwasher, unloaded it, like, look. It's funny, but it's true. It's true. If this is a very, 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 very important part of marriage, and not just for the first year, but it should be getting stronger, we need some help. We need some help. And God didn't let us down. He gave us an incredible, incredible, incredible mitzvah. It's the mitzvah called Taharat HaMishpacha, the laws of family purity, mikvah. Mikvah. So I'm not going to explain everything about this incredible mitzvah, and I do encourage you very much to learn more about it. And our sponsor tonight actually is mygiftofmikvah.org, mygiftofmikvah.org, and I really encourage you to go there. And I'm so happy that they're our sponsor, because whenever I teach about marriage and I teach about the second pillar, which is physical attraction, I talk about this. Okay, so what is a mikvah? So a mikvah is it's a pool of water. An actual physical mikvahs, it's almost looks like it's like a Jewish jacuzzi without the bubbles. Okay, and it's right in the Torah that when it's one of the mitzvahs that when a woman gets her menstrual cycle, she physically separates from her husband for the length of her cycle, and then which is usually a minimum of 5 days, and then you have 7 clear days. You prepare, you go to the mikvah, and during those times of your cycle and the clear days, you physically separate from your husband. So there is no intimacy, physical intimacy. You prepare, you go to the mikvah, you immerse in the mikvah, you say a blessing, you immerse in the mikvah, and then you come back and you renew this part of the relationship. So it kind of creates a half a month on and half a month off situation, okay? So half a month you're together and half a month you're not together. Why is this good? God was so smart. There are people in my life, many people in my life, and we worked in Jewish communal work for over 30 years. And so we're involved in a lot of people's lives. And there was 2 women at a certain time who both of them separately came to me and told me that they were having, in their marriage, they were having issues in the bedroom, in this part of their marriage. And both of them told me that they had made appointments and they were going to see a therapist who specializes in this. 2 different therapists. So I was curious. So afterwards, I asked both of them, what did the therapist tell you? And they both told me the same thing. They said at the first session, both therapists told them and their husband, abstinence. Now you can't be together. And slowly, 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 she brought them back together. God does this every month. The Talmud tells a man to observe these laws so that your wife will be like a bride to you every month, that you'll have the desire for her every month like you had on the wedding night. This is not a guarantee to keep this part of your marriage strong, but it's a huge, giant step towards it. The part of the month when you are together, when you're together, could be together, you're on. And the half a month when you can't be together, you're off. And many women tell me, and they're very drawn to this mitzvah, how special and what a special, how special it could be for their marriage and how good it could be for their marriage. But they say, but my husband's never going to go for it. But I explain to them, and I explain to the men who come on Momentum, and we actually bring them to a women's mikvah, and I talk to them. Men actually don't mind being off if they know they're going to be on. What they mind is, are we off or on? That makes them crazy. So when you're on, if you're on, they don't mind being off. When you're off, it doesn't mean you're not intimate. You're intimate in ways that are not physical. And this is really the ultimate feminist mitzvah. First of all, it's telling a man that your wife is not your property. Also, a man has to get in touch with his feminine side, so to speak, and express himself and express his love for his wife in ways that are not physical. And that's also good for a man. And the time that you're off, you also explore that friendship side of your marriage. All right, so I encourage you to look into this beautiful, beautiful mitzvah. And I have to tell you, for me, it's also one of the most spiritual things that I did in my marriage. And I'm a rabbi's wife, but I'm a very practical person. But every time I would go to the mikvah, when I would immerse and I would come back and go into the preparation room, I look in the mirror and my eyes are sparkling. Something happened there. There are many people in the Torah who are commanded to go to the mikvah besides a woman. A non-Jew who becomes a Jew immerses in the mikvah. Aaron and his sons, before they became the Kohanim, the priests, they had to immerse in the mikvah. The high priest every year on Yom Kippur changes his garments several times and has to immerse in the mikvah each time before he goes into the Holy of Holies. What's going on here? What's the commonality? It's a change of potential. It's not that a non-Jew becoming a Jew, he doesn't become better or she doesn't become better. It's just a change of potential. That a Jew has many, many more commandments to fulfill than a non-Jew. A Cohen is not better than a regular Jew. They just have different potential. They become a conduit between God and the Jewish people. So for a woman, when you get your menstrual cycle, what's it telling you? It's telling you you're not pregnant. That's what it's telling you. And for any woman who has suffered from infertility and is trying to get pregnant, when you see that blood, when you realize that it didn't happen, it's like a brush with death. There was potential for life, and it didn't happen. I, again, encourage you to look into it more. And it really is a very, very, very special mitzvah. And sometimes some of you might be wondering, like, well, what happens if you're in a place where there is no mikvah, where there is no, and every Jewish community in Israel has one, and every major Jewish city all over the world has one, but you'll never see mikvahs are us. It's a very special and very personal mitzvah, and you find out, and you can look, online, and you can find out where the mikvahs are in your area. And it's something that you do. You know about it. Your husband knows about it. The Almighty knows. But it's something that's very quiet and personal. And you'd be surprised at the people that you know around you who probably go to the mikvah. But because it has to do with the intimate part of your marriage, so we're very quiet about it. And the first time you go to the mikvah is usually just before you get married. And I've been blessed to bring many brides to the mikvah and many women who have already had their children who want to incorporate this into their marriage now. And I brought them to the mikvah. And for those of you who maybe are postmenopausal, you only have to go once. And then you're in that beautiful state for the rest of your marriage. You don't have the on again, off again, but you've really invited God into that part of your marriage. And if there's any room, and if there's any relationship you want to be on the highest level, this is the one. You want God to be part of this. Okay, so now I think we're ready to go on to number 3. Okay, our third pillar. Do you respect him? So if a woman comes to me, I don't know, is this the guy, is this the guy, is this the guy? So I ask her, do you have the same meaningful life goals? Yes. Are you physically attracted? Yes. And then I'll look her in the eye without him in the room and I'll ask her, do you respect him? And if she says, yeah, I worry. Or if I ask her, do you respect him? And she says, yes, but she looks away, I also worry. It is a very, 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 very important thing for a man that his wife respects him. He can be the CEO of a corporation and people are bowing down to him all day long, but if he comes home and he feels his wife doesn't respect him, this is not good. This is not good. Why is it such a big deal for a man that his wife respects him? I have no idea. I have theories, okay? Ego and society, and it doesn't really matter why. It just is. It just is. So when you're married, and maybe there's areas of parts of your husband, things he does, things he says, that maybe you know, you're not so crazy about. So what do? So Sherry Wise of Toronto, she's an educator in Toronto, she said something very wise. She said, treat him like a man you respect, and he will become a man that you respect. Don't wait for him to do something that you respect. Treat him like a man you respect, and he will become a man you respect. We do this with our kids all the time. Oh, you're so smart, you're so amazing, you're so musical, you're so creative, this is what we say to our kids. Because labels can disable. If you say you're so clumsy, you're so scatterbrained, you're so slow, so if you raise the bar and you call it, they'll rise to the occasion. Treat him like a man you respect and he will become a man that you respect. So what do you do? What do you do? How would you treat anybody that you respect? Imagine somebody you tremendously respect is coming to your house. What would you do? You'd probably greet them at the door. You'd probably ask, to welcome them. So happy that you're here in my home. Offer them something to eat, offer them something to drink. Give them some attention. Treat him like a man you respect and he will become a man that you respect. So that's going to be our homework for the week, okay? So your homework for this week, again, is to raise the bar. Now you're probably thinking, okay, what about me? What about me? So I'll be talking to the guys on the 5th question, but for a woman, again, do you respect him? And for a man, if he comes to me, is this the one? Is this the one? Okay, first question, do you have the same meaningful life goals? Number 2, are you physically attracted? He knows in 2 seconds he's attracted. And for a woman, again, it's much more inside out. So the more you get to know him. The 3rd question for a man, without her in the room, you ask him, will you be happy making her happy for the rest of your life? Because what does a man need? A man needs to be respected. And what does a woman need? A woman needs to be loved. A woman wants to be respected, but needs to be loved. And a man wants to be loved, but needs to be respected. If I said to my husband if I told my husband, I love you, but I just don't respect you, this is not good. And if a man said to you, oh, I really respect you, but I don't love you, this is not good. All right, so we're going to raise the bar. We're going to maybe, Tal, could you bring the 3 questions up again just to review? So question number 1, so not question, well, it's a question if you're single, but for us to focus it on is, do you have the same meaningful life goals? So the more you put into your meaningful life goals between you and your husband, the greater it's going to be for your marriage. Physical attraction, right? It's a very, very important part of our marriage, and not just for the first year. It's just getting stronger. The more knowledge, the more love, the more desire for each other. And check out my giftofmikvah.org. And number 3, to respect him. Treat him like a man you respect, and he will become a man that you respect. He really, really, really needs you to look up to him. All right, now we're going to go to our questions. Here we go. Okay. Thank you to my producer. Question number 1. What if the gift is a withholding of a negative response, like observing a negative mitzvah? What if the gift, are you talking about my gift of mikvah? I don't understand what you're talking about. What if the gift is a withholding of a negative response, like observing a negative mitzvah? I'm not sure what this question means. Sorry. Question number 2. What if what he wants is to be left alone? Okay, listen, men definitely have like to go into their caves and have that time. Now, obviously, if he wants to be alone all the time, that's not a good thing. But you definitely, if you read the Venus and Mars book, men definitely like to have their space. And this whole man cave thing is a real thing. Okay, they do need their space. But if they always want to be alone, that's not a good thing. That's time for marriage counseling. Question number 3. What do you consider a meaningful life goal? Example, please. Okay, so meaningful life goal, I hope I explained it, is not, again, it's not just do we want to have children? What values do we want to give our children? Not just what does our house look like? Because your goal can't be like, oh, we both want to own a house and live in the suburbs and go north once a year and south once a year. Again, it should be like, what does my house feel like? Do we want to have an open home? Do we want to have community events at our home? Do we want to have guests in our home? Like, what is it? Like, you have to be on the same page there, because if you don't have the same meaningful life goals, if you aren't on the same page, you see the tension that could happen. Like, it's not just that we're going to send our kids to school. Which school? Okay, like if you have an idea, you want to send them to day school and he wants to send them to public school. These are very different meaningful goals and values. You have to be on the same page. Okay. Question number 4, how do you approach empty nest when before as a mom, I focused almost all on my children? Now it will be just us. Okay, so we need to rewind here. For those of you who are not in empty nest, please, I implore you, and we're going to talk about it next week, you need to invest in the most important relationship in your life, which is your marriage. And it's a mistake to pour everything into the kids, and then they leave and you turn to each other like, and there's nothing left because it was all about the kids. You must pour and invest in your marriage, or otherwise what's left? You're going to have a lot of years without your kids, a lot. So know that going in. And I know it's overwhelming when they're young, and I know that they have needs, but your husband needs you too. And we're going to talk about that next week. Question number 5, our interest in intimacy has changed. Early on, he was all into it, and I was tired taking care of home and the kids. Now the kids have grown, and I'm much more interested, and now he's tired and stressed out from work. How do we proceed? COVID has made this worse for him. Okay, so you got to get this together, okay? And you can't wait for it to be him. You've got to romance it up, all right? You've got to make sure that, listen, COVID definitely makes it worse, because I would suggest, if it wasn't COVID, go away to a hotel for a night. You got to plan something. You have to set the stage, and you got to up the romance, and you've got to, but you see, for many, many years, he wanted you, and you were not there for him because of the kids. And I understand you're tired because of the kids, and I understand you're stressed because of the kids. I had 5 kids. Oh my gosh, I had 5 kids in 10 years. But that's why mikveh is amazing, because you have that off time, and then you have that build up, then you go to the mikveh, and then you're on, and you want each other. And then you're going to be off again. So you create that rhythm. And this is such a very, very, do you know how often a man thinks about what goes on in the bedroom? Do you know how often he thinks about it? According to the studies, how often does a man think about sex versus a woman in a day? Many, many more times. It's a wonder Wall Street runs, okay? He sees a poster, a woman walks by. He's just like, it's unbelievable how, I'm not going to do what my Russian bubby used to say. It's a little bit irreverent, but this is a big thing for a man, like all the time. So you had a husband who was very interested in you, and you were not interested in him. It's money well spent to get a babysitter so that you and your husband can spend time together and go out and have a drink. And it's money well spent to get household help so that you're not so physically stressed out, so you can be with your husband, because this is a part of your marriage. This is a very, very big deal. Okay. Question number 6, how does a woman who does not go to the mikveh anymore, menopause, get that magic? So I have to tell you that, I'm finally in that space. And you really see that at different stages of your life, like, you don't need that on again, off again as much, but you still need the romance. And so I definitely know somebody who created an on again, off again, because she had had a hysterectomy and she was still young and she never got to do mikvah. And so because she never got her cycle, so she was, she only had to go once. And so they created on the calendar an on again, off again. They created an on again, off again. So they knew they were 2 weeks on and 2 weeks off, and that worked for them in their marriage. But again, you have to bring that magic. You have to bring it, and whatever works, works. Okay. But this is really how a man feels close to his wife. You feel close to your husband in many different ways, but for a man, this is it. This is it. And if you take that away from him, then he doesn't feel close to you. This is how he shows he loves you, and this is how he bonds with you, and you can't take that away from him. What about him respecting me? I think we talked about that. Of course, it's important, but again, primal for a woman is to be loved. How do you explain what you? Oh, wait a minute. Oh, so we went through the 6 questions. These are just more questions. Do we have time for more questions? We have time for a few more questions. What if he's always been about raising children and not focused on us? What if it's always been like that? Then you've got a problem, okay? You've got a problem. But it's never too late. It's never too late to pivot. Don't say like, oh, well, I blew it and I put, no. Now pivot to him. Really. And you could say you're sorry. And you could say, I neglected this part. I don't want to neglect it anymore. You can turn it around. I have seen marriages falling off a cliff turn around. I've really seen it. I've seen it all. Never give up. How do you explain what you need to feel loved without sounding needy or making them feel like they're telling them how to? Hold on. How do you explain what you need to feel loved without sounding needy or making them feel like you're telling them how to act? When is it okay to tell them how you need them to act? You definitely need that communication. It's very, very important. And a lot of it's timing, okay? It's timing. And just like with kids, when they do something right, you're all about it. And when they do something wrong, you say nothing. It's a whole different series on raising kids, which we might do. But when they do something right, you mention it again. Can I tell you how much I love that? And when they do something wrong, you don't give them any attention to it. Bees are attracted to honey. So definitely in this area, when you are, when he does things that make you feel loved, you point it out again, you thank him again, you say it again, like a week later, you point it out again. And that's how you reinforce in a positive reinforcement and how behavior can change. Question number 1. The homework was to do something nice. What if doing something nice was actually withholding a negative comment? Oh, he wouldn't ever know that. Oh, I see. So you refrain from something. Okay, so that wasn't the homework. The homework was to do an extra act of giving, not refraining. All right. It is hard to refrain. And again, as we spoke, I think we've spoken about before on that most of successful relationships is not what you say, it's what you don't say. But that wasn't the homework. The homework was to do an act of giving, not to refrain from saying something critical. But it's also good to refrain, but he probably didn't notice. Okay. How do you explain what you need to feel loved without sounding needy? We did that one. What if your husband has told you that what if your husband has told you that he's not attracted to you recently because you have gained weight? Well, that was a big mistake that he said that. Oh my gosh, man, idiots. Okay, no. So that was his mistake for sure. But that was definitely his mistake, big time. So what if your husband said that? I think you should acknowledge and to let him know that it hurt your feelings and that his attraction to you is very important to you. And of course, you want to be healthy and you want to be attractive to him. And you can tell him that, okay, I'm going to try to lose the weight. Why? Because I want you to be attracted to me. But maybe talk about how he can point it out in a different way next time or not say it. And maybe, you guys are going to have to talk about how to bring these things up, or send him to me and I'll tell him, never say that again. Okay. But what is he telling you? That he wants to be attracted to you. And we should never take that for granted. Never, never, never take it for granted. Don't dress up to go out and dress down to come when you're home. Okay. Where are we? Okay. Where are we? We have time for a couple more minutes. Just to clarify, you don't say anything at all if something bothers you, just reinforce the good and never mention the bad. No, it doesn't mean you never say it. It doesn't mean you never say it. But if you always point out everything that bothers you, there's going to be a lot of that kind of talk because he does a million things that bother you. Hello. Okay. But if you're always pointing that out, just like with your kids, all right. If the shout out is when they do something right and you hold it back when then it's neutral. So when it's with kids, so this is from Sarah Hannah Radcliffe. And again, we'll do a parenting series. When your kid does something wrong, you speak to them in a way that's very low key. You discipline in a very neutral voice. You don't give them eye contact when they've made a mistake. When they do something right, you're like, you look at them and you're like very animated and you talk about it all the time. Okay. So they get that attention happens when it's positive. For a guy, if you're always pointing out everything, and you got to pick your battles. Like there are going to be times where you're going to have to sit down in the right time, in the right way to talk out something that's going wrong here, or to do it in counseling, but not to be pointing it out all the time. It's like, it's better to let most things, you just let it go. Just let it go. Reinforce the positive, and it's just not worth it. Okay. He takes out the garbage, but he didn't replace the bag in it. Who cares? He took out the garbage. Just be positive he took out the garbage. It doesn't matter that he didn't replace the bag. But if he replaces the bag, you can point out, thank you so much for replacing the bag. I really appreciate that. So the next time I use the garbage, it's there. Like, wow, I really appreciate that. And then a couple of days later, you go like, can I tell you again how much I appreciated that? And here's a hint, just before you're romantic, point out something positive he did, and then you're romantic, and then he's going to want to do it again and again and again. Okay. Okay. So I think we need to wrap this up. Just quickly, last week you mentioned something about 40 days. What was that in reference to? If you do something 40 days, it opens up something in heaven. What were we talking about? We talked about love and marriage. 40 days. Can't remember. I'll try to remember for next time. So I want to give you a homework assignment again. You're going to dial up this week. You're going to dial up the respect. Treat him like a man you respect. He will become a man you respect. Imagine somebody you tremendously respect is coming home. Tremendously respect is coming for dinner. What would you do? Okay, a great rabbi, a famous person, your grandfather, whatever. Like just treat him that way, okay? Or a big client if you're in sales or something, okay? Dial it up, and we'll see how that goes next week. So just to remind you, we'll be meeting again next Monday. We're going to be talking about mistakes we all make. We all make mistakes. Don't beat yourself up. You're doing amazing. Okay, but we all make mistakes. So we're going to talk about some of the mistakes we make and hopefully give you some tools and how not to make them. Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you to my producers. Thanks, Judy. Thanks, Tal. Thank you, everybody. Don't forget, we also have Momentum Boosts. Go to momentumunlimited.org, to our website. We're here to help you. We are your lifeline, okay? And also, you can put in my email if you want to contact me personally. Some of you contact me personally. If I didn't get your question or if you have something more private, you can, my email, if you put it up, is Lori@momentumunlimited.org. If somebody could chat that in for me, I'd appreciate it. And is anybody putting up my, okay, anyway, it's Lori. There we go. Thank you. Lori@momentumunlimited.org. You can email me. And now just don't go away yet because we have, just take 60 seconds. We have a poll to see how things are going, how the series is going. So please take some time for the poll. And thank you. You're doing amazing. You're rocking it. Nobody's perfect. I'm proud of you.